Hello. Welcome again to my channel. In my previous video, I discussed about lactate threshold or your functional threshold heart rate and how you can use it to pace a long effort, say a very long climb. In this episode, we would look at real-world example of how to apply those pacing techniques, and I would also discuss heart rate recovery. So stay tuned. Alright, so let's have a look at an example of how to apply the heart rate pacing technique that I've discussed in my previous video. So this in this climb, we've got 105 kilometers with 2,300 meters of climbing. This is called Three Peaks, and it's called Three Peaks is because we've got three major climbs, are all category 2 climbs, which is composed of Mount Tambourine, back of Beachmont, and then Oxenford. These climbs are in increasing difficulty. So let's have a look at Mount Tambourine. So Mount Tambourine is 6.6 Ks of average, like 6%. Recall that my lactate threshold heart rate is at 173 BPM. My heart rate here in this entire climb averaged at 174, which is bang on my lactate threshold heart rate. But also notice that I maxed out at 184 BPM. Now, why is that? Let's analyze this one. So the climb finishes at around around 44 minutes into the ride. 44 minutes into the ride, starts at 15:24 into the ride, so kilometer 6.4, and ends at kilometer 13.2. So let's analyze that one. So over here, that's the climb. Let's just partially select this one and then look at time, 44 minutes, which you can see at the top right there. Yeah, that's about it. Right, that's the entire climb. Let's have a look at the profile. So remember, as I suggested, when you start off a climb, try to go into your lactate threshold as quickly as you can. So my heart rate is already at zone 4, 160 BPM. So I quickly pushed until I hit my lactate threshold. So at this point, I'm already at 172 BPM, and it's pretty much steady. And notice that sometimes it climbs to 176, sometimes 178. Now look at the gradient, it's at 7.1 compared to like 3.7%. Yeah. So when the road pitches up a bit, my heart rate also increases, right? So at 8.5%, my heart rate is at 180. But then it also quickly settles down to my lactate threshold, so 173. So pretty much the whole climb is centered on my lactate threshold. Here it lowered to 168, 169, because if you look at the gradient, it's only at 1.6, so it's essentially a false flat in there. Now remember, in my previous video, I discussed about maintaining your lactate threshold throughout the climb. But then when you know you're near the top, like in this case close to like a kilometer from the top, I would ramp up my effort. So from my lactate threshold, you would notice that my heart rate has now increased to 176, 177, 179, 180, up to 184. Right? So in the last like few hundred meters, maybe a kilometer into the ride, right? So from kilometer 12.2 to kilometer 13.2, which is that's 1 kilometer, right? my heart rate has steadily increased. So I increased my effort, hitting my VO2 max. So essentially that's how you would pace a climb. Start with your lactate threshold, and when you're near the top, say a kilometer from the top, start ramping up your effort, hit your VO2 max. So let's have a look at the other climb, which is the back of Beachmont. This one is a lot harder. Back of Beachmont is only 4.6 Ks, but it averages 8.3% compared to 6% with Mount Tamborine. Notice that my heart rate is also steady at 172 BPM, which is my lactate threshold of, like 1 BPM below my lactate threshold. But again, notice that I've maxed out to 183 BPM. So this one, this climb ends at 1 hour 54:24 and 1 hour 54:16, and starts at 1 hour 28:28. So kilometer 33.2 to kilometer 37.8. Let's analyze the climb. So this is back of Beachmont. Kilometer, so 154.54. Let's just start here. Let's select this one. Right, so that's the entire climb. Average heart rate 173. Right, so I start off at zone 4, 160, 161, and then in just a matter of a few hundred meters, I'm already at my lactate threshold. Then steady, and there's a bit of a false flat, and even there's a false flat in there, and even slightly downhill, minus 0.2%. So my heart rate drops, and then immediately back to my lactate threshold, and that's essentially just my lactate threshold, very steady. And again, on the last kilometer of the climb, let's select that one. You notice that my heart rate just like steadily increases, 176, 178, 180. Practically the same technique, right? Do not start hard. Just get to your lactate threshold, keep it steady, and then when you get to the last kilometer of the climb, push to your VO2 max. And that's essentially how you pace a climb. So this next example is like a PR attempt up Mount Kuta. So it's very different to your normal pacing. This one you just go full gas, right from the get-go, just full on, because I know the climb is just less than 11 minutes, right, or maybe at most 12 minutes. So you can go full gas if you want. Now I won't be discussing pacing here, but instead I'll be discussing heart rate recovery. Right. So the climb is what? 2.16 Ks, 8.9% average. Look at my average heart rate, 178 BPM. Right. Maxed out at 183 BPM. So that's the entire climb. Let's analyze this one. Alright, so that's a climb there. It should be somewhere here. Let's just select this thing, that thing, right? So from zone 4, well, close to zone 4, 157 BPM, I hit my lactate threshold in just a few seconds. And from there, it's just full on. 181, 183. And then towards the top where it pitches up, I hit 183 again. Right? Now, if you look at my cadence, right? My cadence is highest at this point, right? And then I stop pedaling. So my heart rate dropped. When I stopped pedaling, my heart rate was at 175, which is 175 BPM at timestamp 1 hour 12 and 50. I haven't pedaled until this point. So from 175 BPM, I stopped pedaling, and here my heart rate is at 139, 140. So from here, timestamp is 1:12:46. Over here, it's 1:13:38. That's even less than 1 minute, right? That's less than 1 minute. And my heart rate dropped from 175 down to 139. That's more than 30 BPM per minute. That's like 35 beats per minute of heart rate drop. And that's what you want. At the minimum, your heart rate should drop by 20 BPM per minute as soon as you stop pushing. If your heart rate takes longer than that to recover, then I would suggest that you check with your GP, check with your doctor, just to make sure that you don't have any heart problems. But as you can see, my heart rate recovery rate is quite excellent. It's excellent, 35 BPM per minute, and that's what you want. And that's it for pacing and heart rate recovery. So again, remember, when you're pacing a long climb, at the get-go, try to hit your lactate threshold as quickly as you can, and then just hold it from there. Just keep it steady. Your lactate threshold, center on your lactate threshold. Go maybe 5 BPM higher when the road pitches up, but then immediately recover to your lactate threshold, and just keep it steady. And then when you know that you're very close to the top, say a kilometer away from the top, start ramping up your effort. Try to hit your VO2 max and maybe beyond your VO2 max when you get to the last few hundred meters of the climb. And then as soon as you stop pedaling, wait for 1 minute and then have a look at your heart rate. Make sure that it has dropped by at least 20 BPM or more, right? So again, pacing and then heart rate recovery. And that's it for this episode. I hope that you learned something from this one. I'll see you again in my next video. Thanks.